Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really charged situation. It's reshaping global trade. The U.S. has just imposed some significant tariffs on India.
Yeah, big ones.
And this isn't just about trade, is it? It feels like a crossroads. Geopolitics, energy, national sovereignty, it's all colliding.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating point where all these things meet.
So the big question for you listening is, what's really behind this? And maybe more importantly, what does it mean for India and, well, the rest of us? Let's dive in.
It's definitely complex. These tariffs, they're not just some simple business spat. They're really forcing a major power, India, to rethink its whole strategic playbook. It's a dynamic of challenge and response.
Okay, challenge and response. Let's get specific then.
Right.
What exactly are these tariffs? What are we talking about in like dollar terms or percentages?
Right. So we're looking at a cumulative 50% tariff. That's a fresh 25% slapped on top of an existing 25%. It kicked in just a few days ago, August 27th, 2025.
50% cumulative.
Wow.
And what does that hit?
It hits a huge chunk of India's exports to the U.S., about $60.2 billion worth. That's something like two-thirds, 66% of everything they ship to the States.
Two-thirds. That's massive. Which sectors are feeling this most?
It seems targeted at the labor-intensive ones. Think textiles, gems, and jewelry, even shrimp.
Yeah.
Sectors employing a lot of people.
Okay, and the official reason. Why now? Why this big move?
Well, the stated reason from the Trump administration revolves around India buying Russian oil. They claim that since India's purchases now account for, I think, 37% of Moscow's oil exports, India is basically, quote, indirectly financing the war against Ukraine.
Indirectly financing. Okay.
Yeah. They even use the phrase opportunistic arbitrage, like India's just profiting from cheap oil while the West tries to isolate Russia.
But is that the whole story? You often see other factors at play.
Exactly. You have to connect it to the broader America First protectionist stance, right? It feels like political leverage as much as anything else.
So a mix of geopolitics and protectionism. How's India taking this? Are they, bowing to the pressure?
Not really. Not at all, actually. India's External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar, he's been quite defiant. He's talking about national interest, energy security for 1.4 billion people. Basically saying India will buy oil wherever it gets the best deal.
Okay, standing firm.
And pointing out what they see as a double standard. Mentioning China, some European countries still engaging with Russian energy in various ways.
Right, so it sounds like India is pushing its own India first idea here, almost mirroring the U.S. approach in a way.
That's a good way to put it. This whole thing really shines a light on India's push for strategic autonomy, wanting to make its own calls, foreign policy, economic decisions in this sort of multipolar world we're in.
And does this strain the U.S.-India relationship? People often talk about that partnership.
It certainly challenges it. Some call it a marriage of convenience, and this puts pressure on that. Interestingly, it might even create an opening for some kind of diplomatic reset with China. That would be a big shift.
A reset with China.
Wow.
But you also mentioned targeting. Are some things not hit by these tariffs?
Yes, that's the strategic selectivity part. Key sectors like electronics seem to be exempt, probably to protect vital U.S. supply chains and, big interests like Apple manufacturing in India.
Okay, so it's not a blanket ban. But for the sectors that are hit, what's the damage on the ground? Economically, for people.
Oh, it's acute. It's really painful for those specific industries. We're hearing projections, some as high as a 70% cut in export volumes for the affected goods.
The 70%.
Yeah. And that translates directly to jobs. Hundreds of thousands of jobs potentially at risk.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about textiles in a place like Tirupur. Suddenly, they're facing maybe a 31% cost disadvantage compared to rivals in other countries. It's not just abstract economics. It hits families, small businesses hard. Even software services feel an indirect, chill, protectionist sentiment, tighter H-1B visas.
That sounds like a really severe blow, as you said. But what about India's overall economy? Is it strong enough to withstand this, or is the whole thing shaky?
Well, there's a bit of a counter-narrative there.
Yeah.
While the impact on specific MSMEs, the small and medium businesses in those sectors, is frankly catastrophic, the bigger picture is maybe more resilient. S&P Global Ratings, for instance, just upgraded India's sovereign credit rating.
Oh, really? Even now?
Yeah, they affirmed its robust economy, which is heavily driven by domestic consumption. Over 60% of GDP is domestic.
Okay.
So macroeconomically, the overall GDP hit might be, let's say, manageable, maybe worst case 0.9% or something, but that doesn't help the businesses going under right now.
Right. That's a crucial difference, the macro versus the micro. So the Indian government calls the tariffs unfair, unjustified.
Mm.
But are they doing anything else besides protesting, using this as maybe an opportunity?
That's where it gets really interesting, actually. They're not just complaining. It seems they're using this shock as a catalyst. A catalyst for some domestic reforms that have been talked about for a while. Things like a GST overhaul, providing direct support to the sectors hit hardest.
And the central bank.
Yeah, the Reserve Bank of India, the RBI. Reports suggest they're ready to inject liquidity if needed, maybe even cut the repo rate, the main interest rate, to ease conditions.
So it's like they're forced to react, but also trying to pivot strategically.
Mm-hmm.
What's the long game here for India?
Exactly. Pivot is a good word. It looks like a renewed push for Swadeshi. That's the sort of long-standing idea of self-reliance in India. Plus, trying to internationalize the rupee, make it used more globally, and definitely accelerating efforts to diversify trade.
Diversify away from the U.S. market.
Precisely. Less reliance on the U.S., exploring new deals more aggressively, maybe with the EU, the UK, ASEAN nations. It's a fundamental recalibration.
So wrapping this up, what we've really seen here is this powerful external shock. It's clearly painful short-term, especially for certain industries. But it's also acting as a kind of transformative stress test for India's economy and its whole strategic direction.
That sums it up well. This deep dive really shows how a trade fight can, it can force a nation to redefine its independence, its strategic autonomy, and it leaves you with a provocative thought, doesn't it? Are these tariffs, as damaging as they are right now, actually speeding up India's journey, pushing it faster towards becoming a more genuinely self-reliant, independent player in this messy, fragmented world?
Definitely something to mull over as we watch how all this continues to unfold.